Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will give it a couple of minutes to get fully up and running, or give it a minute because I can see the participants are now flooding in. Now we've opened the gates. We do hope, and please all pray as well for Matt's Wi-Fi, because he came on saying, I've had a nightmare with my Wi-Fi, but it's fine. And all we got was, so fingers crossed. If Matt, I think it's doing it now, if it does drop out, then we'll get him to drop camera and hopefully, or he can dial in at some point. Yeah, you can just see his face now. It's paused. Anyway, look, let's just get cracking, and you know what we'll deal with. If we can get Matt, we can get Matt. If we can't, then it's just you and me, Si. But firstly, thank you for everyone for taking the time and joining us for our first episode of Funding and Friends. So I guess just to give you the premise of the series, and obviously the purpose of today's. So the series is designed really, you know, I think back the 8 years that I've spent in the accounting tech space, I've met some amazing people. Some really, really great brains, great personalities, but also some amazing tech that is out there. Now, we are not here to, you know, say, I prefer this one over this one, because, you know, we know there's so many different spaces. It's more about showcasing to, you know, fellow accountants and software providers, showcasing the talent that is out there and the types of things that essentially we are seeing in a day-to-day accounting practice, and looking at the problems that ultimately these apps and softwares can provide. Hopefully we'll give you some great insights, and hopefully we'll have a bit of fun along the way. It's very, very informal, very, very relaxed. If anyone knows me, then that's pretty much, that will be on my gravestone. I do encourage as well anybody to throw any questions into the chat. You know what? We're open to any questions. If there's any challenges you're experiencing, or there's questions you want to ask specifically to any of the guests or myself, please do throw them in there. And any suggestions you have as well, we're completely open on that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our guests and special guests on the first session, two very, very good friends of mine. What I'm going to do first of all is I want to hear a bit about Si and Matt as individuals, talk about their careers and understanding of them, and then we'll find out a bit more about their current roles and what it is they're looking to achieve. So Matt, given we've got you at the moment, and you have internet, weirdly outside you've got better connection than you have inside.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's you, mate. You love the sun, don't you? Matt is a very good friend of mine, very old friend of mine. Well, careful on the old, but we've known each other for some time. Speaking of time, Matt, I think we've lost you again. Right, do you know what? This is always going to happen, isn't it? I'm going to flip the other side and I'm going to go to Si. Si, I know we've known each other for many years as well. We actually first met you on the other side of the world, on a call at about 9 o'clock my evening, didn't we? But yeah. Si, for those of you who don't know, those of you who don't know you, please tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're doing.
Yeah, cool. Great to be here, by the way. I'm really excited to be on episode 1. It's an honor. But yeah, a bit about me. So yeah, Simon, currently working at Nook, but as a non-accountant, been in the accounting industry for a decade now, starting off working at ICAW, Institute of Chartered Accountants. Had an interesting role there, basically managing relationships with software providers, insurance providers, anyone that wanted to support accounting professionals and ICAW members. Then I went traveling to the other side of the world and went and landed in Sydney. I got my first job in tech there, working for a company called HubDoc, who I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. And about 3 months into my role there, HubDoc was acquired by Xero, which was exciting, but also quite nerve-wracking as well, because I was on a working holiday visa there, and I thought, oh, I'll be first out the door if they start trimming the fat. But totally not the case. Got the opportunity to move to Auckland and launch HubDoc there as a Xero product, sort of boots on the ground role there, which was awesome. And then I had several roles at Xero after that, looking after different products. and really supporting accounting firms with understanding the value of those products and adopting them and helping their clients to adopt them as well. Then moved home, had a baby, and ended up working at left Xero, worked at a company called Coconut, which was bookkeeping and tax software for sole traders and for advisors that support sole traders and landlords, and worked there for almost 2 years, really gearing up for MTD for ITSA, which I'm sure everyone knows what happened, what's happened with that. So yeah, unfortunately then had to end up looking for another role, and found a home at Nook. And yeah, excited to talk a little bit more about Nook today with you all, and share the problems we're solving here and what we're doing. But yeah, a non-accountant in the accounting industry for a while, but always with sort of a look at tech and helping firms and clients to adopt new ways of working and transform along the digital transformation journey.
Nice. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously I knew your background, but it's always nice to hear because it's such a varied background, really, isn't it? But I guess with like I say, tech and accountants at heart. Tell me about the HubDoc days, because you know, that must have been, you know, at the time I was essentially a competitor of yours because I was at Receipt Bank, but I presume it was very scrappy startup, you know, like that I went through, and then suddenly there was this just a weird, it must have been quite a strange change to suddenly see, oh, actually we now have budget for that, we now have this. And you know, what was that transition like?
Yeah, it was definitely scrappy startup. I think when I joined we were like 60 or 70 employees, but predominantly based in Canada and North America. So in Sydney we were very much a satellite office. I was the 6th member of the team there, and I was called an account manager, but we did everything. We were answering support tickets, we were, you know, doing calls and demos, attending events, presenting at events, and everyone did everything, which was a great way to learn about the product that, you know, you're essentially trying to sell, but also learn how people use it, problems they have, how it solves them. And then the acquisition happened. The role that was quite varied became very, very focused. And although there was still a little bit of support ticket action in New Zealand when I moved there, it became more focused. And I think you know, from a satellite office of 6 people to moving to Xero with several thousand employees, you know, you just got support across a load of areas that you used to just have to manage yourself or wait ages to get access to, and budget. Unlimited budget almost, which was game changing as well. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and really enjoyed having quite early on in my sort of career in tech both perspectives quite early on, both from startup and a slightly larger corporate organization. So it was cool.
Yeah, it must be really interesting, because I've only ever done pre-sale or pre-acquisition. I've not done the post. So it must be interesting to be there. Let's say all the things you've probably moaned about and been frustrated with, that suddenly, but it's also, I guess, how you handle that as well, isn't it? Just so you know, you see me looking away from the screen, I've got Matt frantically messaging me saying, having a nightmare trying to get back in. So yeah, we will just keep, that's fine. We'll do your piece, Si, in the hope that he does come back in 1 second. I'm just messaging, sorry, while we speak.
Poor Matt.
Yeah, do you know what? You clearly all didn't pray enough, did you? For Matt. Oh, hang on. I think we have someone here. Matt, can you hear us?
I can. I'm so sorry, folks.
No, it's okay. It's okay. He's gone again, I think.
I should have paid my BT bill.
Yes, exactly. or you should have moved from BT is the one. You know, obviously there is other broadband providers out there, just to add that. Matt, if you are stable, as in your internet, do you want to give us a little introduction about yourself as well?
Yeah, you'll just have to tell me if I disappear again, and I will have to just apologise profusely. So just very quickly, my background in this world, because I'm an electrical engineer by trade, not just a pretty face. I first got into tech and into the kind of accounting world, probably from. So I started off advising small businesses as a business link advisor. Anyone remembers back to those times? Worked with lots of businesses from kitchen table startups right through to quite big 25 million turnover businesses. And during that time, I did a lot of work with PayPal. And so when the business link service closed, I went to PayPal and again learned a lot about payments, which is obviously related to what we're talking about today as well. Early days when they first had the card readers came out, and lots of exciting times then. And then from there, I met this little company called Free Agent Accounting Software, and I think they had 4 staff at the time, and joined them just at the time they were growing. Spent a lot of good, happy years there, going till they got Next group. And so more recent on their integrated banking, accounting and banking platforms. And now I am with a company called Sleek, and we what we do is incorporate businesses. So it's kind of mixed businesses, limited companies, and then working with them to manage their accounting and help them to grow.
Matt, we got most of that. The only one we didn't get was your time at Sage, which was and actually you missed out where we first fell in love. You missed out the Receipt Bank Capital on it's not a Capital on Tap, One Tap days. Oh, okay. Okay, I think I think Matt's reference there was the therapist had told you not to talk about that. Okay. No, and again, really interesting background, given that you've been at so many, and actually you've been at 2 of the big accounting software houses as well, which again, seeing one from ground up and then one that's obviously the colossal green machine that it is today as well. And interestingly, if people didn't pick that bit, now Matt works for an accounting firm ultimately, but they start at the incorporation and take the client all the way through the journey. So what I think we'll do from here, and actually rather than you telling us about your roles now, I think what we'll do is I'll ask some questions around the current, I guess, pain points within the practice, and then we'll just drill down in a bit more detail and then take it through there, which will naturally give, I guess, the viewers an understanding of your roles and what you do. Now, I have to say, the whole payment space for me, it's a bit of a black hole. Genuinely, everyone's going, oh, faster payments, payments this, and there's a gazillion different, in my mind, when I think about the accounting industry, it's almost like cash flow forecasting tools now. There's so many different ones out there that do so many of this, probably the same fundamentals, but there's different nuances in what they do. And for me, I kind of, I was chatting to a friend the other day who works for another provider, and I said, what is it that's actually changed? What is it that's actually different to the old style? And by the sounds of it, it's not hugely different, but it's so efficient in the way that it works and everything. I mean, actually, probably it's worth asking Matt's experience, actually, given your PayPal days to where you are now, and then obviously get your slant in it as well, Simon.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit like, I always liken it to with the television boxes. Do you remember when you used to have to plug in a digibox and all this sort of nonsense?
Yeah.
Right. And then you had to connect it all up and things would break, and well, I always used to struggle making it work. So it kind of the same with payments, really. I think a lot of as you say, a lot of the way things are done hasn't changed very much. And it's interesting with tech platforms when they try and build around that kind of those existing rules. Actually, in relation, I keep using different examples, but in relation, it's a bit like making tax digital, right? It's like when tax does become properly digital, then it will make more sense. At the moment, you're struggling to fit this digital journey into an antiquated system, and payments are very similar. So you still make digital payments, and in your personal life, and it still takes 2 days, sometimes 3 days to come through, and this is mad. So I think that's a big thing that's changing. There's still a lot of the same processes, but the interconnection is the big thing that's changed. And also from an accounting point of view, being able to kind of monitor and account, and reconciling and splitting payments. I mean, a good example with PayPal was when I was there was, people used to sell stuff on PayPal, and the transactions came through as just one big lump, and nobody would know, down to a granular level what they were buying, what they're paying for. But now with different integrations, you can go down to sort of product line. So yeah, lots of changes like that, I would say, and more to come as the kind of as things develop. With your accounting, with your bank feeds is a perfect example where we used to have to renew every 30 days or whatever it was, and they're all just examples of it's that kind of crossover going on. So yeah.
Well, have you got anything to add on to that side? Yeah, and again, please, do educate us on the Nook side as well, and well, I guess the pain point that you're solving, or what it from your side is how it's making it a smoother process.
Yeah, sure. I think Matt's point there about open banking, from a bank feeds perspective, was obviously game changing. Access to data virtually in real time in things like accounting software has been a game changer. But I think open banking from a payments perspective has not changed the game. I think some of the banks haven't adopted the payments aspect of open banking. Some of them have quite specific rules and requirements when it comes to initiating payments through software to the bank account. And we've seen some, payments providers struggle if they offer open banking or bank account payments only. And I think whilst the landscape has changed, and if you keep an eye on tech, like we do, because we're in the industry, and some of the viewers today are probably keep a finger on the pulse of new innovation. If you tell the majority of small business owners that the payments landscape is busy and there's wonderful tools and solutions that make their life easier, they'd be like, is there? I'm still spending my evenings and weekends keying in line by line bank transfers in my online banking software, and it's still a massive time burden for small business owners. And we solve that for them, but we take a particular focus on accounting firms that want to support their clients with the accounts payable process, making supplier payments, payroll payments. And we do have open banking as an option, but we use our own e-money account. So Revolut, for example, their e-money accounts, it works in exactly the same way. Top it up with funds, and then you can execute payments in bulk really easily on the faster payments service as well. So they're instant payments. And we're different in the respect that we've taken a real focus on the accounting firm perspective. So there's things like robust user roles, permissions, delegated access is nice and straightforward but secure, and built-in and integrated approval workflows. So ensuring that there might be an internal review process for a payment run before it's released to the client to approve for payment, for example, makes us a little bit different. And then things like international payments as well. Got 35 currencies in addition to pounds. So yeah, and I think that's again, just to build on that, the sort of the problems that an accountancy firm faces without using a payments tool when it comes to making payments for clients is a big one. I think you speak to the majority of practices, a lot of them will be making payments on behalf of clients, but you'll find that it's one or two clients that they've got a good relationship with. There's a high level of trust, and that client's basically begged them to do it for them, because there's obviously a high level of risk that comes with doing that, because without a payment solution, you have to be accessing the client's bank account. And rightly so, many practices we talk to have held that at arm's length, going, you don't like doing that at all. So yeah, we help to solve that problem for practice as well.
And
Sorry for
just
waffling.
again, no, not at all. No, it was all value. And I'm just thinking back to when you're talking in my banking days. I worked for Barclays for nearly 10 years, and a lot of my Premier clients would make international payments, or they'd want a same day payment. And I think back, it was bips and chaps, if anyone knows what that actually means. Yeah, Matt's nodding there. And presumably they no longer exist, or do they have to exist for a certain size from an anti-money laundering or something like that? Because I remember, like, when you're buying a house, and they'll say, there's also a £55 charge because it's going to be a same day payment. Now, presumably that does it, and I might be barking up the wrong tree here, but does that negate any of those requirements now?
It's a good question, and bips and chaps are terms I've not come across before.
Sorry.
But that's because I'm so young and full of youth that things like that don't mean anything to me. But Matt, maybe you could touch on it, and I can talk about sort of anti-money laundering from a Nook perspective.
I think it's just quite poetic justice that he's talking about me being old, and I don't even remember those, to be honest. I think it's a good example, really, and it's the processes, right? I do think that they're just by another name, really, to be honest. And as those systems develop, I was just thinking about what you were saying earlier, actually, Simon, is that it's good that you don't rely on the open banking, because one of the big problems that we have is the inconsistencies in the banks. So those chat processes and all these things, they actually still exist in in anything but name, and they kind of like seeing behind the bank curtain. It's a bit like the Wizard of Oz. There's all these old antiquated kind of systems they're trying to join up together and make work. If any of you, I shouldn't mention any, but my bank, it's got like a mixture of it's got this beautiful shiny mobile app, and then when you click through it goes, you've got the old user interface, and then if you want to add a new payment on it, it goes to this completely different web form. So so I think that's the thing. They're actually working, in the back end with those legacy systems. So I think that's the big sort of difference in there. And I think I'm not massively into cryptocurrencies and understanding of them, but they're the kind of modern day version of those processes and the checks that are done that the CHAP system used to do.
Oh, we lost Matt there, but yeah, and sorry, I realised I asked you a very specific question to the banking sector, so I appreciate you probably wouldn't know the answer to that. But I think in what Matt was covering there is actually, it's nailed it on the head for me, is that there is that requirement is no longer there, or the requirement is there, sorry, but the antiquated process is eradicated from that respect. And also, given that you've got the approval side, does that then also negate some other softwares that typically you'd have to bolt on to to other services to be able to go out to get the approval from them and then come back? Speaking of going out and coming back, there's Matt again. Anyway, we will continue without and regardless. I will not let this stop the conversation. So presumably, you're eradicating the requirement of another software that needs to be built into it.
Yeah, I guess we look at the accounts payable process from end to end. So in addition to the approvals, there is also sort of an invoice data capture part of what we do with OCR. So you could use Nook as an end-to-end accounts payable platform, from receiving a supplier invoice, going through approval workflow. So as you say, negating the need for an approval app to sort of plug in. We've got those inbuilt and integrated into our own platform. The payments being made, and then we will go through and also ensure that the payments that are made are reconciled against the bills in the accounting software, and will also send supplier remittance automatically as well. So yes, there's a couple of tasks that apps might do as one task in the app that we could essentially replace, but the biggest problem we solve is definitely around the payments aspect. And we are, or Nook is rather, a modular platform in that you can use one aspect of it or choose to use it end to end as well.
That was actually going to be my next question, because again, I suppose, and I've had this conversation with someone else who does the OCR piece, and they're going, well, you've got ingrained, you know, the hub docs of the world, the decks, the auto entries and so on are ingrained in the processes and the practices currently. It's like changing winning the hearts and minds on that side is probably difficult, but the fact, as you're saying, it presumably talks to these softwares, or you can just take, you know, like you said, you're not taking that part of it, but using the approvals and the batch payments and everything else off the back of it.
Yeah, and every practice, every client is different, and we recognize that. So if you're using a Dex or a HubDoc, you send them into Xero, for example, in awaiting approval. Nook will pull those in automatically, push them through our approval workflows before they're available to be paid. And some practices will work with the client where they don't even need to do that in terms of the invoice approvals. They will just want an approval on the payment run, and so you can send from Dex or HubDoc into awaiting payment in Xero, collate the payment run in Nook, and then get approval on the actual payment run itself, rather than the sort of the invoice to payment approvals as well.
Got you. Makes sense. Speaking of got you, I'm not sure if we've got Matt. A very serious face there. It's very still though, but that's probably the Botox. We'll come back to him. Hopefully he heard that. We'll come back to him shortly. That's fine. And I guess an apology if you just covered it there when I was trying to get Matt back in. That piece that you alluded to earlier about the who does it, the client or the accountant. Where do you guys sit in that? What's your mindset of it? You know, should it be taken away from the client and controlled by the accountant, or should it be a hybrid, or what works best in practice, I suppose?
What works best? Again, I think it's practice and client preference, and again, using a tool like Nook, you get the ability to kind of make that decision case by case. I think that what we're seeing is that the practices haven't been able to do this before in a secure, risk-free almost way, and so that there's not many practices that offer sort of payments as a service at the moment. But with a tool like Nook, far more capable of starting to offer that. And if you do offer, you know, an outsourced finance, outsourced FD service, payments has seemed to be sort of the missing link or the missing piece of the puzzle so far. Adopting a payments platform makes that possible, and it's a great way to sort of build a deeper relationship with the client, also their suppliers. You understand how they like to pay their suppliers, are there credit limits or whatever with the suppliers, and I think you just I think more and more accounting firms will start to do that now with the availability of solutions like ours. I don't know which is right. You know, I think it's just down to preference.
Okay, and I guess the other bit that you just mentioned there is the late payments, which is the killer of the SME market, isn't it? You know, I know from the funding side that we're regularly they're citing small businesses and accountants as well. We get on a regular basis looking for cash flow funding because of that stretched payment terms, or people that are actually, you know, in some cases 90, 100, 200 days, if anything, overdue. yeah, I mean, obviously there's a big impact there, but is there things that Nook can do to help? Presumably, because you're visualizing that, you're seeing the payment terms and trends and stuff. Is that things that insight you deliver back, or it's something you're looking to deliver back in the future?
Yeah, insights wise, we don't sort of provide detailed reporting from the payables perspective, but the dashboard gives you a really good indication of what's overdue and how far overdue it is. I think that's something that we would probably look to do over time, but not at the moment. But you're right, yeah, late payments is a killer. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Someone holds on to that £1, that's someone else that doesn't get their £1, so they hold on to their £1, and it's just it's a vicious cycle. But yeah, I think getting better visibility of what's due, obviously HubDoc and Dex can help with that. But if you're working with a hospitality business, for example, just seeing the invoices in a system isn't helpful enough. If you've got someone in the kitchen that needs to approve as to whether or not the Brussels sprouts were, not bruised and damaged before that invoice is paid, it's not as simple as just loading it into the system. Having approval systems in that case can really help know what needs to be paid and when.
No, I think that's I like the way of looking at it. Brussels sprouts, very seasonal, but if you roast them, they can be good as well. We might have, Matt, I'm not going to say we have, because you actually said visibility, and he popped up as well. So I think with the key words of bringing him back in, and he's gone again. So Harry, hello Harry, good to see you, mate, or hear from you. So the question we have here, which actually looks like David's answering this, which is always good to see. I don't know if David works for Nook. What is the difference
Thanks, David.
to Nook versus Telaroo/Cresco, or are they like for like? Which is very interesting, because that seems like that's a person sitting there going, oh, and I get it. It is so difficult in this industry. We do create app fatigue, sadly, because there is
100%.
so much choice, and it's looking at who's the biggest, who's the shiniest, but actually it's finding what is right for my practice and my clients. Now you can probably see on the comments what David has come back with, but I guess, Si, from your perspective, what we're not here to, it's not about bashing competitors or anything. It's just what is it that's unique to you guys, I suppose, to your competitors?
Yeah, I'll keep this really short. I'll try to. So a couple of key differences is our two-way integration with Xero, QuickBooks, Sage Business Cloud, in that you're not having to push anything manually out of Xero in terms of payments that need to be made. We'll pull them through into Nook, and like I said earlier, in whichever status they're in. So draft, awaiting approval, and awaiting payment as well. The approvals is obviously a key difference as well, whether that's approvals on the payment runs, or if the client requires invoice to payment approvals. We've got purchase orders as well, approvals on those. And then it's from a sort of Telaroo perspective, international payments, we differ in that respect, and then supplier remittance and things like that. I think we would refer to ourselves as an accounts payable platform rather than just a payment solution. We can consolidate multiple apps into one place, which, when you think about app fatigue, I think that's where the industry's going. You've got your best in breed, these single task apps that have served a purpose really, really well. But with new technology, you can build that stuff a lot faster and bring it all into one place, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you for that. And I guess, just from my perspective as well, as an outsider, as much as I hear a lot of noise and things like the likes of Libya that came and went, didn't it? I mean, doing amazing things in France, and well, Glenn works for you guys now, doesn't it? Foster. Just interesting to see that story as well. Is that because the market is becoming a little crowded, or is it, what's your view on it? Just as an honest opinion as to the comings and going, because they came and went big, didn't they? And then decided obviously to back out. after several months, or if not a year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to tell Glenn's story, but no, it's I think crowded marketplace could be one thing, but I think Libyo got good traction. It was probably the closest product on the market to what we're doing. And I think it's just one of those things, when you launch in a new market, new languages, you end up having to almost build a separate platform in a sense, and things take a lot longer to build than you might expect. And there were a number of probably contributing factors, but it was a great tool. And it's a shame that they've had to exit the UK. But Glenn said to us when we were talking about him doing some work with us that he always kept a really close eye, probably watched us the closest, and he described it genuinely, Nook, as the product that he wanted Libyo to have in the UK. So it's awesome having Glenn on the team, and he's added a ton of value in a really short space of time, as you'd expect for someone with his experience and expertise. So we're really pleased to have Glenn on board.
Cool. Thank you, Si. I think we have Mr. Perkins. I don't really want to say this now, because you're just going to end up disappearing again, aren't you? Honestly.
No, I will try. This is the last time, right? We're in a disruptive industry, right? So that's why I was just trying to be really disruptive.
Oh, is this what it is? You're just basically trying to kibosh, I think, I've got this great idea. I'm just going to set up this series, and then I'll get Matt on as the first guest, and then he just goes and screws it on up.
But just think it can only get better from here, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, Si's held his own, so you're okay on that one. But Matt, what we've been talking about whilst you've been messing around, making cups of coffee and having some lunch and going to the toilet, whatever it is you've been doing, we have just been talking more around, I guess, getting an understanding for me as well, to get a better understanding of the payment space and everything. Now, really keen to hear more about how Sleek are working, one with payments and Nook, naturally Swoop as well in there, but just about finding out a bit more about Sleek itself as well, because mutual friend of ours, Ed, well, you're actually mates with him because of me, I used to share an office with Ed back in the day, but you tell us the story about accounts lab, wasn't it, and how it became Sleek, and what you guys do.
So cool. So I think I've got a lot to blame you for, haven't I, really?
You have,
Ed as well. So I met Ed when we were working together, Sam, and we were looking for an accountant to basically shake things up a bit, and so we had an app for sole traders, and we were looking to kind of sell accounting off the back of that app, quite a way ahead of its time, actually, at the time. Introduced us to Ed, so I've worked with Ed for quite a long time since then. But Accounts Lab were very focused on sort of tech, sort of fast growth startups as well. And so Sleek have been were launched about 6 or 7 years ago, I think, in out in Singapore, for a very specific market. So if you want to start a business out in Singapore, you really can hear seagulls. It's excellent. I've got seagulls. There's never a dull moment, Sam.
Yeah, there is.
You can almost see behind Sam's eyes, thinking, "Oh God, I could have introduced somebody professional in this first one." It's
just carry on talking. Stop it. Go on.
It's like the pilot of these comedies that never get made, right?
Yeah. So apart from they're funny, but go on.
So anyway, so basically Sleek in Singapore, very specific type of market. You need a lot of it costs a lot of money to start a business in Singapore. So the model was kind of there. They expanded to Australia and to Hong Kong, and then they made a foray into the UK. Like a lot of businesses, they kind of saw the market. The UK market's huge. There are a lot of startups every year. So they basically looked at acquiring an accounting company. So the two things that obviously somebody needs to start a business is an incorporation agent. I know you can do it yourself, but there's a lot of pitfalls in doing it yourself. So yeah, so they bought an incorporation business called Limited Companies, actually, down in Ashford in Kent, been going since the early 2000s, and then bought Ed's company. A lot of it was based on the fact that Ed uses quite a lot of technology and looks for innovative things like the payments providers and AP automation. And so yeah, that was a kind of big factor in them purchasing the company. I joined a little while ago, about 4 months ago now, 5 months, and especially off the back of my presentation skills was the main.
Yeah, and Wi-Fi
yeah, that's
capabilities.
It. That's it. Please know I've got full bars at the moment, so I'm just
show off.
My fingers crossed. So yeah, so that's and the whole premise is really that a business to succeed really needs to start off on the right foot. And accountants, I mean, we've worked with accountants for a long time. I feel like poacher turned gamekeeper now as well, so I'm on the other side of it. And you have the challenge of customers they just don't really clients don't understand the importance of accounting. You get two types. You get the people who kind of go, I don't need that, and then they get past their first year and just go, oh goodness, yes, I do need that. And then you'll have the ones who sort of are very conscientious and and panic and will take accounting on in the early days. And they're actually quite hard work as well. So you can't win it either way. So the key thing is to really kind of with a client, and this is where technology's really helped now. Sam, is like, I wasn't in accounting in the old days, but obviously in my early days of free agent, we were transforming practices from paperwork and from Excel spreadsheets and stuff right through now, finally starting to get your clients actually using apps to photograph their receipts and all that kind of thing after many years for receipt bankers again, as you know, Sam. So those processes it's really just I think it's leading a horse to water kind of thing, and sort of pushing their head in, making a trick as well. And it's a constant thing. So actually the big thing is, if you can show, if you can take on some of those like the payment requirements and things like that, the customer becomes a lot more sticky. And in the past, it took too much time. You couldn't do it. You couldn't manage those. And you talked about practices where you might handle 2 or 3 people's payments. Now it's actually a real strong tool to keep those people on board and to get them on there. And then the more you can make their life easier and the more you can support them, obviously, I mean, it's an obvious thing, right? Stickier they become. So I think that's the big, big game changer, is having that technology that can actually help you to become much more sticky and important to your clients, rather than just your, the old year-end engagement that tend to happen a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you guys have taken the approach of you want them from day one, don't you? You want them that initial setup.
We do.
And then be able to work with them, and if you can day one start working from an accounting perspective, but if you can't, presumably then it's about educating them through marketing and various other guises. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And let's not lie. Let's not sort of dress it up. It's very, very difficult to get people to understand the value of accounting and having somebody doing those books for you, because it's a cost, right? They view it as when you're a startup and you're trying to, get your business going, unless you've got money behind you and you know what you're doing and you got started. The vast majority, I think 70% of our clients are first timers. And they look at an accounting package and go, gosh, that's expensive. What they don't realize is we have accounting software in there, and then we have lots of goodies like Nook, which we can help. So I think often having that little angle that says, actually we can handle that for you as well. Okay, right, that makes a difference. And we'll talk about Nook probably a bit more, although we're running out of time. I've spent most of it on the toilet, Sam. But
it's your age, mate. It's fine. Yeah, it happens.
But with Swoop as well, you see, so obviously we're partnering with you guys as well. And these businesses that start, it's actually a really good lead in, because they go, well, I haven't got much money to get started. You go, well, actually, you probably want to look for some support to get grants and get funding to get started. So yeah, I think it's not just addressing the accounting, it's actually addressing the issues and the problems and the challenges that the client has, and finding the technology and the partners to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there, because your agenda isn't their agenda. You know, and until you truly question, you don't know what they need, you know. And yeah, but we've got all this amazing stuff over here. Yeah, but it's that I need that you've not told me about, or you don't offer. And I think I guess that's finding that out early. And how do you find that out? You know, is that boots on the ground, you know, or calling and questioning and kind of discovery calls and so on?
Yes.
Or yeah,
it is, because again, just as a little kind of, you know, warning label, technology for technology's sake isn't always the best thing, right? Because a lot of people are scared about photographing receipts, or, you know, automating their payments. And so again, it's making them understand what the value of it is, rather than saying, you know, we've got all this whizzy stuff that will help you, and they go, I don't know whether I want whizzy stuff, do I?
yeah.
So yeah, but it's also, we do use a lot of personas, and looking at the types of businesses, and, you know, it's a bit of an old cliche, but, you know, the builder on the building site, he's got thumbs like 5 times bigger than yours, Sam, and he's not going to be doing stuff on his mobile phone. You know, it's either when he gets home, or the brains behind the operation, which is his wife, who does all his invoices and stuff. It's understanding the types of customers as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great point.
I've got lots of them, Sam. Even though I've been on a little bit of it, it's
and just going back slightly, thinking about your experiences, as you said, poacher turned gamekeeper. What's it like? Because, you know, whenever I think about an industry event like an Accountex or a DAS or whatever, and, you know, sitting on the sales side, working with accountants, you know, there's part of you goes, right, we've captured some great information on different accounting firms and stuff. Send them an email, get it out. And it's like, but you're one of 1,000 apps that is doing that at the same time, or whatever the number is. You know, what's it like sitting on that side? Because I try and put myself in the shoes of the accountant and going, we all have something amazing that we have to offer you, but it's understanding their agenda and what's right for them. But what's that like? Because you must get phone call after. I mean, I just get emails and phone calls trying to sell me lists of accountants that I get every day, every minute of every day. And unfortunately, you can't unsubscribe to a lot of them. But what's it like for you sitting on that other side of the fence? Have you a bit more empathy now, or is you still just ignore everyone?
Yeah, no, it's a weird one, right? Because part of it is just timing and luck, like everything in life, right? So, you know, if you've got a specific client that you're dealing with and you're having problems, you know, sorting out what they need, and just happen to have the right email at the right time, or the right call at the right time. So there's a lot of that, I think. But I think it's just it's funny because obviously I have a sales team who kind of go out to get clients and things, and it is talking to people. I know it goes back to all these old-fashioned things, right? We get loads, as you said, loads of emails, loads of lists and stuff, and most of them you kind of ignore because it's, you know, it's just a bit of a blanket thing. But I think it is important to kind of, you know, just get your timing right, which there's a clever thing with timing, right? Is the main thing is just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And the timing will get there at the right time at some point. So yeah, I think old-fashioned badgering but definitely like getting an opportunity to properly talk about what your product does and what your solution does. So yeah, and I think the other thing, sorry Sam, is just confidence. So, and you know, there are lots of people out there that do the same things, or in your eyes think they do the same thing, but don't necessarily do. So I think a lot of it comes down to whether you believe and trust in what they're doing, and you know, kind of see the kind of brand piece of it as well, which is, you know, probably nothing new really, is it? That's just the same as ever.
No, but it's interesting because there's always been that. I've always taken the view that you can have the best technology in the world, but if you're not with the people, then you know, there's no point. You know, for me, the accounting industry is about people by people, and that's where trust is born. Especially given that, you know, it might be a relationship that's been built over 10 years with a client, and now you then entrust them you would trust a third party to then give them the same level of service that you do, or exceed, an expectation in that. And I think that's the real, for me, that's the really, really important part is about, having that balance of, the technical capabilities. Like you said, it's not just tech for tech's sake, it's actually using it for its abilities, but also helping it, making it help you create those conversations, or be more human is what I'm trying to say, from that side.
Definitely. And Sam, just one last point on all of that, right? Is and because I'm wittering on now. I've got the limelight, can't get me off.
Again, it's your old age. Go on, keep going.
I'll tell you a story about the war in a minute. But there was but no, what I was going to say was for accountants, right? And we always joke about it, but like probably more than 90% of our industries, the changes that have happened over the last decade and still to come, because you're dealing with cash, you're dealing with like the technology, you're dealing with the banking side, you're dealing with data, and all of those things through AI that's now coming through, and the connected data points and everything else is just like, if you being an accountant nowadays is it's completely and utterly different from 5 years ago, I think. And so it's a huge amount of change and upheaval that goes on every year. And then obviously you have HMRC throwing a nice few curveballs into the mix all the time as well. So I'm glad that I've only just started getting on this side of the fence, to be honest with you.
It is really interesting actually when you look at the change. I think probably from the zero era, wasn't it? 10 years ago, I guess ultimately it has drastically changed, and some amazing stuff, but I think there's so much more to come. And especially, as you say, the adoption piece with the clients is not there. It might be within the firms, but just not there with the clients. And I suppose that's almost a feeling from all sides, isn't it, to help educate. But I do think there should be more support from the government to be able to get these messages out there to the small businesses who aren't unaware of a lot of this. One thing that I did want to mention, or two things I did want to mention from a Swoop, how selfish of me talking about Swoop, but actually it's to benefit our accountants on the call. So Innovate UK have just launched a new grant for, and again, Matt will be taking note of this, and we will share the link to it as well in both the follow-up email, and also we can put it in the chat now. The grant has been designed to support professional services, ultimately accounting firms that are looking to do something innovative within the space. Innovative in the sense that you're going to be supporting a certain subset of small businesses. So I'm looking at it now. So it's saying you can apply for what's it got, 50,000 to 200,000, which that'll fund up to 70% of the project. It needs to start before April 2024, up to 70% of the project cost, sorry. But it's available to business of any size. You could be supporting academic institutions, charities, not-for-profit, public sector, research and technology organizations. I think Maria's put it in the chat. Yes, she has. Thank you very much, Maria. The brains again behind this operation. So do have a look at that, and we will share it for those who are listening to the recording. We will share it in the email as well. But really, really worth looking at, because it's not often you see something that's assisting and supporting the accounting industry. Another thing that we've seen massive change in, and you probably hear about it a lot at the moment, is acquisition funding. Within Swoop, we are funding a number of accounting firms at the moment, whether that be to buy their first practice, whether that to be to go on get a war chest of 5-10 million quid to go out and buy 20 practices. We're seeing a real shift in the mindset and I guess the appetite in this world. Yes, you're seeing a lot of the assets in the world, and Danes are doing it. Shaw Gibbs, there's a lot that have taken on equity investment to acquire, but also we're looking at, we did one just last month, I believe it was last month, This was for an advisor of ours that we work closely with, which is I guess a smaller practice, probably fair to say, that acquired a practice with an EBITDA 3 times theirs, and they bought it with no deposit. We got them 50% of the funds up front, because essentially they're borrowing against the trading business they're acquiring, and then it's 25% on year 2, and then another 25% on year 3. So why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because there is most firms I've spoken to in the past, when I talk about potential acquisitions and growth, there's always this mindset that you have to have a deposit or you have to have some funds. But actually, and I know a lot of accountants will know this already, but if you're borrowing from a trading bit, you can borrow from the business you're acquiring. And ultimately, the professional services sector with the funders that we work with are so attractive. Genuinely they're queuing up because they know it's regular, reliable, steady income. It's not an industry that's going to be hit by, honestly, survived sitting on the tech side, we're like, right, okay, recession is going to make them change because there's going to be consolidation. COVID, do you know what, that's going to make them have to change because, again, naturally that created more jobs. MTD, you know what, here we go, this is going to make the change. MTD is just, I guess, a bit of a joke now, isn't it? Because everything just gets delayed. And every time we think something's changing. So, the funders, there's a huge appetite, to fund accounting firms, but also, supporting them with growth of their existing practice. Again, I think we've probably in our team this month, but we'll have maybe 6-7 funding deals for accounting firms. We've got ones at £10,000. We've got Cashflow lens of 150. There's all sorts going on there. So it's not just about supporting your clients, but also thinking about your business and what you want to do and how you want to operate as well. So there you go. I've put a shameless plug in there, but hopefully of value around what we can offer just our accountants, not just their clients. Look, does anybody have any questions? Because I realize we've said ask questions throughout the session. Harry, thank you for doing so. And thank you for, who was it who jumped in? David for jumping as well. That's great to see that we've got some fans, some Nook fans on there as well. I guess if there's no questions, Matt, do you have any closing remarks or anything you wanted to add that I've missed?
Go on, Simon.
I was going to say you, Matt, give me more time to think. If you
No,
go first.
I'll go first. All I was going to say, firstly, I apologise for this terrible Wi-Fi at the beginning, and unfortunately, it's a bit like I always said, don't ever do live demos, and it's probably the same with webinars. But no, I think I didn't really get a chance, and I'd like to big up Nook as well. So you have businesses that come along, these sort of tech solutions that come along, and lots come and go, but you look at somebody like Nook and you think, yeah, this is, we use them with our clients, and there's some really good clients of ours that we've been able to do some really great stuff with, like paying payroll and things like that in particular, and really great team there as well. I'm shamelessly plugging you now. I'll have to get my money's worth, don't I? But no, but in all seriousness, like we've been in the industry quite a long time now, Sam, whether you like it or not, and you do have these businesses that come and you go, yeah, that's gonna go be there for the long term. So I think really, really good, and I think if anyone hasn't looked into Nook and hasn't had a go at it, then you should definitely take a look. It's helped us with some really key customers.
Thank you, Matt. And if anyone wants to get in contact with you and grill you for any reason, where's the best place? Is it LinkedIn for your cheesy photo on there?
Yeah. Just have the photos up redone recently, so touched up and everything. So
good. Exactly. Yeah, they're actually. It doesn't look like a small child anymore. It's actually 30 years it's took him to get a new one on there. It was black and white as well, wasn't it? The one that you had originally.
I think it was your ribbing that made me actually get it done. So
yeah, it was. Yeah, you looked about 5 on it, not 55. Si, from your perspective, anything you wanted to add? Where can people get hold of you?
LinkedIn's great. So Simon Lofts on LinkedIn, or drop me an email, which is just si@nook.io. Would love to have a chat, even if it's just a chin wag like this one. I feel like we could have spoken for a little bit longer. It's you could just talk for hours about tech and the accounting industry. But yeah, drop me an email. Would love to hear from you if you want to learn more about Nook or just have a chat. Yeah, thanks Sam and Team Swoop for inviting us on today. It's been good fun. Been good fun watching Matt enter and exit and freeze.
He's like that in a meeting, honestly. Even face to face, he just disappears. No, genuinely, both of you, thank you for joining, and everyone dialing in. Really appreciate you taking your time. You know, I haven't even introduced myself in any of this, but anyway, you'll get the email out. If anybody wants to know more, Sam Horner, very simple to find, and a very simple human being as well. Hopefully people will like these sessions, and we will continue them, and we'll run. I've got a long list of people who want to be part of it, so hopefully we will get the views that we want to keep it going. Thank you again for everyone dialing in, and also my beautiful guests, and also Maria as well, who you can't see, but behind the scenes who's making all this happen. So thank you.